Are you familiar with the so-called dark period of Deftones? The popular alternative metal band nearly broke up after the recording and release of their self-titled album in 2003, and the pressure was on even more. Tension between the bandmates led to them recording their 2006 album Saturday Night Wrist, mainly by emailing files back and forth. The reason I bring up the dark era is because it led to the light that was becoming the album that just leaked onto the internet nearly 18 years after it was recorded, Eros. Yeah, we are somehow living in a world where we got Eros before GTA 6. Hey neighbor, welcome back to the channel. My name is John. I had to talk about the Eros leak because fans seem very divided on it. I have my takes. Stick around to the end of the video. I will talk about them track by track and give some thoughts and an overall rating based on me hearing it about 5 times at this point and wanting to hear it even more because it's really good. Oh shit, I think I got a computer virus, guys. How did Deftones Eros leak get into my Dropbox account? This is the U2 iTunes thing all over again. Get out of my Dropbox, Bono. Cat's out of the bag. Yeah, I listened to it, and a lot of people seem to be morally policing this, and I do understand the frustration. In fact, I believe it was Chino's wife that spoke out on the leak first. She said, Eros was leaked. I hope Chino is aware, and whatever must be done is done. Theft is never okay, even in these situations. Well, there you have it. Bag it and tag it. Never listen. No. I think once something is out on the internet, it's not to say that it's just like open season no matter what. But Chino himself was actually the leaker of the first song that we heard in full. In fact, it was the only song that was fully mixed and mastered, Smile. A lot of Deftones fans, including myself, probably remember that day in 2014 when he posted that on the official Deftones YouTube channel, and it was deleted, I believe, a day or two later by their label, Warner Brothers. And considering now, it's like people are like, how do we actually know this is Eros? It was uploaded to YouTube and a few other services, and it was immediately pulled by Warner Brothers, so that pretty much confirms it all right there. And of course, some people close to the band, including one of their photographers, talking about the fact that the band are kind of upset by it, it seems. And while Stephen Carpenter, their guitarist, is the only member that has officially commented on it this time, I feel like we'll probably hear more, but let's see what Steph says for now.
Is it true that a Deftones album leaked and it had to get scraped from the internet like overnight?
I don't know if it's been scraped from the internet or not, but and I don't know to what extent it's leaked, but every record of ours since White Pony has leaked.
Damn.
Because
So you guys do have a leak.
It's just a thing that happens.
Yeah, that happens.
Now, could it be that my favorite flat earther, Stefan, is just stoned out of his mind and is not really even sure if Eros is a sativa, a hybrid, or an indica, or the rest of the band feels very differently from him? It could be that. I'm feeling like it's probably the latter. And I understand why there is some moral outrage, I guess, to some extent here. But it's like I'm kind of seeing in the Deftones subreddit over here where people are saying, you know, like, the leak, am I going to listen to it or not? I didn't listen to the Eros out of respect for the band crowd by the end of the week, and here we have it. Squidward with pretty much every leak available. All of the Krabby Patties know we're replacing those with copies of Eros because, suspiciously, the person that posted only 11 days ago, about a week before the leak, posted this. And while this is likely fake and a mock-up here, Deftones vinyl in hand. My dad works at Deftones. And I'm looking at recent comments, and what are the odds that the album, after all these years, leaked a couple of days after this post? And rclift02, the OP, says, told you, my dad works at Deftones. And I believe you, bro. Now let's rewind just a moment to see why some would feel this would be disrespectful and why that kind of, in my mind, contradicts the original leaking of Smile by Chino Moreno himself, the frontman of Deftones, putting it out there. And it's one thing, of course, to put one song, but When something is owned by the label or somebody close to it, there could be producers, there could be people that have access at the label to those files somehow because it's their assets and it got leaked after all these years. I don't know how it could have taken this long. If you were going to leak it, just leak it. But here we are nonetheless. Okay, but to really get to the core of it, we have to look at the original bassist, Cheng. This was a guy that I actually thought was really cool. I was not a fan of Deftones until, unfortunately, after he had entered his coma. Tragically, on November 4th of 2008, on his way back from his own brother's memorial service, meaning his brother had just passed away. He was involved in a car accident, subsequently in a coma for almost 5 years, before eventually succumbing to his injuries and passing away in early 2013. I'm sure a lot of Deftones fans remember these infamous clips, the small snippets that Deftones gave while recording Eros. This was something that they had never done before. And like Stefan himself said, all of the records after White Pony, including White Pony, had leaked onto the internet before their release. And it feels like here they wanted to give fans an insight into their process. So we see them with 5 separate posts on their blog, on their website, all the way back in 2008, taking fans through the recording process. And this is some of the only confirmations that we actually had for Eros' existence for a long time before Chino leaking Smile. There were live recordings of some of the other songs. There's a lot of tracks named after people, notably women, on this album. And some of those had been performed live, including Brianna. Fans have seen like, oh, this clip that we're watching right now actually became that song, right? You can see Chi recording with the band in these clips, and it just makes it that much more heartbreaking to know that he was there with the guys. They were actually getting along for the first time in a long time. And Chino recalled in an interview saying, at the time Saturday Night Risk, we started making another record, which was tentatively titled Eros. Bands started to reconnect on a friendship level. We were having fun again. We'd get into our rehearsal spot. No one would show up till like 8 p.m. And as soon as we'd get there, we'd play dominoes or Risk. So they were playing games. They were getting along with each other. And that was leading them to be creative and get back into the space of recording music together. And then he goes on to say, when Chi had his accident, we were probably another 6 months away or something from finishing it, but they had been recording for about 6 months or so on and off already. But at that point, everything halted. We all sort of just stepped back. All our thoughts were with Chi. All our thoughts were with Chi and his well-being and what was going to happen with him. It wasn't until maybe 6 months after his accident where the whole band had gotten back together, back in Sacramento, and we sat and talked for a few hours about Chi and everything else. And before we even really had a chance to start talking about the future of the band, everybody walked over to their gear and just started playing. I think Diamond Eyes is one of the best Deftones records, and it's still far too early for me to say, is Eros like ranked here or here or here in the discography? It's going to take some more time for me to process the fact that I'm even hearing this with my own ears. Like, sorry for the jump scare there, but as you could see, I was getting really emotional, just crying during the listening session. My first listen of Eros, I never thought the day would come. I really became a Deftones fan in 2012, just after the release of Koi no Yoken. Shout out to my old manager, Will, who put me onto them with that record and more notably White Pony. What I'm getting at is that I'm glad Deftones were able to channel that darkness surrounding Chi's condition, him being in a coma and them not really knowing exactly how to go forward, but they put out Diamond Eyes and it features a lot of their most successful and, in my opinion, their best songs. Sex Tape is on here, Rocket Skates, 976 Evil, You've Seen the Butcher. With respect to the band and it having been Chino Moreno's birthday week, sorry buddy, a hell of a birthday present for this album to leak onto the internet after all this time. But who's to say it wasn't someone in their camp? I'll wait for official confirmation. We'll probably hear more, but I have a sinking feeling that we'll probably never get a full, like, mixed, mastered, widely released on CD, vinyl, all streaming services, all that good stuff for Eros. I would seriously love to be proven wrong, though. Please, please, please prove me wrong. From all the sources I've sifted through, it feels like this record was probably about 70 to 75% completed when they had to abandon those sessions, and you can definitely hear that in the final product. Even Cheng's playing is not as prominent on Eros, and that's because most of the bass tracking and especially the mixing had not been completed, so some of the instruments drown out the others. But I oddly find that this is part of Eros's charm. The fact that it's so raw, unpolished, and intense at times. It's a very volatile and at times vulnerable record. With 11 songs, I just feel like it has so much to offer that could satisfy fans of adrenaline and Saturday Night Wrist alike. Speaking of people with charities like Bono, I can't hate on him at all for that, I wanted to highlight something that I'm not sure everyone talks about when it comes to Cheng.
Right around White Pony was coming out, we were doing really well. So I started a music program for the homeless teens here in Sacramento, which is really nice. And then I would actually play with them too, because I think it's more important to be hands-on.
I wanted to highlight that because I do sympathize with you. Everybody has their own choice, right? You can listen to the leak or you can decide not to. But I think for those of us who have been waiting so long, this is definitely a way of honoring Chi's final contributions to Deftones. And in fact, that's kind of the contradiction that I hinted at the beginning of this video, because Chino himself had gone on record as saying that, you know, this was kind of in tribute, in love to Chi. And after his passing, we got the leak of Smile, which stands as one of my favorite Deftones songs. I had only let myself listen to it a handful of times because I think in the back of my mind there was just like a claw machine that kept trying over and over again, like, one day we're gonna get all of Eros, it's gonna happen, and you know that the game is rigged, but you keep trying anyways, and what do you know, we finally got the claw chomped down and pulled out Eros. Okay, now let's take a quick look track by track at Eros. I want to give some thoughts, and if you're not listening to the album yourself, maybe I'll just give you a general idea of what you could expect, you know, just out here trying to give you the metadata of an image without you actually seeing the image. Alternate Eros title, Not So Private Music, following up their excellent album, which I never put out an albums of the year list like I typically do, but just so it's out there, Deftones Private Music was my 2025 AOTY, my favorite album of the year. That just makes Eros leaking even more exciting, at least in my book. Tell me what you think in the comments, because I know everybody's torn, but okay, let's get into Destiny. Actually, this track Destiny might be my least favorite on all of Eros. It feels pretty stereotypical, kind of like the guardrails are on bowling with bumpers Deftones. The chorus feels overly familiar, and if you do listen closely to really all of this 11-track piece, I think that you'll see that they took some of the riffs, some of the ideas, some of the vocal cues and arrangements, and maybe put traces of them in future albums. Track 2, Brenda, features a suspenseful build-up section about 45 seconds before we launch into some nice drum grooves and some bass that actually does stand out. We hear a little bit more of it on tracks like this than other ones later in the track list that maybe it's not as prominent or mixed as well, because they were working with their longtime producer Terry Date again. They had gone off on their own with Saturday Night Wrist, reunited for this record, and I think the results show that they were clearly on to something. Everything is here, all of the scratch work, even if it wasn't meant to be the final product. It stands as a testament to how fucking good Deftones are, because tracks like Brenda aren't even the best on Eros, but it already had me salivating for more. You could probably put this one alongside something like Teething, that cut from The Crow 2's City of Angels soundtrack. Remember that? Not on streaming, underrated Deftones song. And this one, Melanie, track 3, sounds like it's an underrated Deftones song as well. And it's a little bit of whiplash, but I love that with Deftones, obviously. If we're here for the tones, we're here for the quiet, loud dynamic. And from Brenda into Melanie, ladies back-to-back night, I guess it's ladies night all over this record, because we also have Margot, Electra, Trimpest, Brianna. I feel like all of those are women. That probably sounds like I'm complaining. Not at all. Track 3, Melanie, though, is definitely one of the loudest, and it reminds me a lot of Adrenaline, that early surge of sound that was reckless. You feel the rawness of this track, and I'm kind of glad this one doesn't have the full finished mix and master, because the garagey sound is a huge part of its charm. I'm really not trying to play snippets out here from the record, because I know the label's just waiting to snipe this video down with some copyright claims, but I'll resist to the best of my ability. But Smile is one that you can, if you haven't heard it before, you can take pleasure in everything it has to offer. Enter the Garden of Eden, my child. It's just so blissful. That big hook is so sexy. Smile, you're born again. It's soaring on angels' wings. Track 5, Margot, is really captivating. I like the fact that it almost has this more Incubus vibe to it, in the sense that we get a little interstellar. It's a little trippier, it slows down the pace a bit, but I like the fact that we get more of an emphasis on mood, and the fact that this one builds around grooves. It's not just out of control reckless, but it's also not totally stripped down either. Track 6, Candy, feels like it could have been at home on Saturday Night Wrist. I love Abe Cunningham's drumming on this. It's not anything too complex, but with the mixing the way that it is, the drums are absolutely at the forefront. They feel really throttling on this track, and it makes that hook come to life. A nice kind of understated vocal in a way from Chino, but the restraint works to the advantage of the song, to the point where it's probably in my top 5 on Eros. Track 7, Sable, is easily one of the best here. Sable Gang, rise up. It comes across town like a fast-moving thunderstorm, and the lightning bolts are flying before you can even blink twice. The first half is a little bit more suspenseful, a great chorus on the track, and I love that little sneaky riff that just kind of plays around like a snake in the grass before taking us into that punkier sounding back half that I would love to hear more of this energy from Deftones, because the surge between both of those two parts make this feel like so satisfying. Track 8, Electra, has to be the wildest song on Eros, and I love it for its chaotic energy. There's a lot of cool stuff going on here. It's got a rap rock vibe, a rap metal sound with its first part, and you think you see where it's going before Chino transitions into this almost like 808s and Heartbreak era Kanye auto-tune thing that sounds really good for as out there and out of left field as it feels. I mean, within 2 or 3 listens of Eros, like, I was full on headbanging to the whole thing, and the auto-tune was the furthest thing from my mind. It just goes to show that when you use it in tasteful ways, I'm looking at you, Julian Casablancas from The Strokes, it can actually have a great effect. It takes a lot to keep a song like Electra from fully spinning out and just being a tornado that collapses everything, but somehow, with all the shrieking and all the changes in the track, it adds up to something that feels really combative and really distinct within the growingly large Deftones discography. Track 9, Trimpest, no, not Tempest, off of Koi no Yoken. We're talking about a separate song here that is actually not the same song at all. It just shares all but one letter of that song. Trimpest is a really cool standout because we actually get to see more of Frank Delgado's contributions to the band. They really shine on a track like this because there's those kind of haunting keys in the background that throw the pace to something a little bit more moody and vibrant in its own way, sure, but this one feels like kind of lurking through the halls in Resident Evil. Big Halloween vibes. I could see it working in a soundtrack for something, and I like how loud and furious it can get at times. Chino sounds great on this one, and really for all of these tracks, just I guess being scratch vocals, I think it sounds pretty fucking great. Track 10 is called Diamond, and that's the second song in a row that'll probably remind you of something else in the Deftones catalog. Diamond Eyes, Tempest, this being Diamond. And again, this is another great one. This one actually jumped out to me. It was probably the biggest grower for me on the album so far, but it's turned into one of my favorites. It features this tantalizing riff. There's really no other word for it. It's just grinding. It's there. It's so prominent. It's impossible to ignore, and it becomes infectious. And I love the way that it swirls itself up, builds the momentum towards a memorable chorus, and it features a longer extended instrumental section with a lot of great guitar work. Abe's drumming really shines in those moments too, where he gets into the pocket and just fully lets loose while serving the track at the same time. Our final track on the leaked version of Eros is track 11, Brianna, and this is one of the ones that you've been waiting for. If you've been wanting to put your finger on the pulse of anything related to Eros, this is one of the must-hear songs. For much of this record, I'm sure one of the complaints that some of you have is that there's not nearly enough riffing or overdubs on guitars, and that there would have been more had they finished it, and I understand that, but I think Brianna won't necessarily give you the same complaints. This is a song that really, to me, does feel complete, and I love the fact that they're able to get everybody firing on all cylinders. This is what I hear when the band members were talking about feeling so connected. It just feels like everybody shines here. The guitar keeps this thing on its feet running forward, but the drums and some of those keys in the background, just everything feels very organic and natural here. And it feels like Deftones in their element and at their best, and sounding like Deftones in the best way possible. And I have similar thoughts on both songs, and the fact that they both really sound like Deftones, but Destiny is the one that just feels like maybe you just got your generic Deftones song, and 11 is every member of Deftones coming together to make themselves sound like the band, but also add new things to the formula. For my personal rating on Eros, I'm going to say a strong 4 out of 5. I don't think it's, like the top 5 of the discography or anything, but Deftones don't have any bad albums, and this certainly continues to be the case with Eros. In fact, I think this album will grow on me even more, and I am very curious to see if the band ever officially ends up commenting on this. I'll probably update you guys if they do, but for now, I want to know your thoughts. Tell me if you've heard Eros, what are your top 3 tracks on the album, what would you rate it, and if you're not listening to it, let me know why, and let's not try to beat each other up too much on whether or not we are or are not. We're all allowed to have our own personal feelings on it, but the way that I look at it, it's not like any of us leaked it. It's not like I broke into or you broke into the mainframe and hacked Warner Brothers and said, Eros for everybody, like it's Oprah back in the 90s. It's just one of those things that's unfortunate, and I don't condone the fact that somebody likely had to have committed this theft for it to be out there. But the fact is that it will always be out there at this point. And not listening to it does not make you a better person. Appreciate you checking out my coverage of the Eros leak. Do me a favor, hit the like button on the video if you're still here. Subscribe if you happen to be new, and add some hype to the video. Check out more of my Deftones content on screen, and I'll see you next time on Beyond ARTV.